You mentioned performance cost, and you've also made incredible advancements on the optimization side of the games that we have worked on together. How do you balance visual fidelity with performance when working with shaders, tools, and rigs, and all of that stuff? How do you balance it all?
That's super interesting. The whole topic of performances versus profiling and profiling is super interesting. It's always a matter of balance. Ideally, you never cut something for the sake of performances. It's only you kind of reassess its importance, and you then balance the weight you virtually allocate to that feature, depending on its importance from a player perspective. So sometimes it's just you play the game and you profile specific things. I wouldn't ever recommend to profile everything at once, like GPU, CPU, memory, blah blah blah. It's always messy, and the more things you profile simultaneously, the less relevant those becomes, because those profiling tools, they do have a cost as well. So you playtest the game. If you want to optimize the level, something specific, you make it so you can profile it. And then you're like, okay, I have the CPU. Let's take as an example the CPU cost of 5 minutes playtime. And you're trying to balance things. And it's, again, just a matter of balancing regarding the importance of the feature and the current costs. And then comes a matter of a train of reflections about how can these be optimized. A very simple example. It's a very simple one, but when I used to give lectures to school, it's almost every student project had these issues of you want to make interaction in a game, and you put sphere of collisions everywhere. And you made it so the player has a collision around him, and when he collides, overlap with an interactable, he interacts or can interact with this. It's fine most of the time, it wouldn't hurt. But if you have a big game with many overlap and moving players, plural, you see all those repeated ticks in the CPU cost of, oh, that is a physics body that moved at this frame, and the frame after it moved again. And every time you moved, it's reassessing the collisions test. And you see this, and you're like, this is definitely too costly. But you cannot cut it because you're like, I still want to interact with things in the game. So you reassess how this feature functioned in the first place. And you're like, okay, we want interactions. The problem is the way it works. We have a sphere that collides with the surroundings. But that is how it's supposed to work. So you still need to find an in-between solution. And often the in-between solution is, do I really need? That's always the question I keep in mind when I'm having that kind of issues. In that case, it's pretty simple. Do I really need to perform these tests of collision every frame? Of course, no. I could even run it maybe not every second, but maybe every 0.2 seconds would be more than enough. And at this moment, do I need to constantly have overlapping actors? I could just check the physics collision scene in the first place without testing overlaps, because disabling overlaps in Unreal, it is also an optimization on its own. And by doing so, you just fix the collision, the performance issues related to that feature. And same, for this, to me, is a good example because it's a feature most game has, not all, but most have. And it's something that is always there, so it definitely has an impact if you optimize it, even if it's half. Cutting the cut in half is already excellent. But even if you reduce it by 10-20%, if it's something that runs every time, no matter what, yes, it is important. When it's one big explosion, for example, that occurs in a cinematic, might be interesting, but as a player, if it's something you see only once, it needs to keep the epic fantasy around it. The fact that it's that gigantic explosion at the end of the cinematic occurs only once, it's important. But do I need all the fluffy cosmetic details that I would then only see once. I want to feel that it is impressive. I don't want to be like blinded by all those explosions or whatnot. So you try to dim down either the Niagara emitters of the particles systems or the shaders. You try to make a more isolated optimization on that effect. But you know that it's something that only runs once, so you mostly care about how it does renders. If your gigantic explosion eventually is just a soup of textures, because the memory, the graphic memory is saturated and all the textures are loaded in the least available bitmap, so at the lowest resolution when everything is super, super blurry. Okay, that's cool. You kept your superb explosion, but it's not optimized properly, so you don't benefit from it. So it would have been even better to cut it in the first place rather than keeping it with low resolution texture because it hasn't been optimized. But same, it is every time a unique case. If the texture are blurry, it's because the graphic memory is saturated. So you need to look on the memory usage of the game. If it's the CPU, it's a totally different topic. But it's a superb topic. Like optimization, it's really cool. I can promise. Because often people are like, yeah, it's boring and annoying and everything. I don't know. It's like you're a policeman. You get into a crime scene. Okay, you know. Okay, no, you don't know who killed the person. Yeah, actually, you're a true policeman. That's super cool.